These ramparts sit on top of Beacon Hill in North Hampshire, and it's very windy up here. And at 260 metres, or approximately 856 feet in old money, it's more well known for the beacon which gives it its name, which was visible for miles around. It's also the resting place of the late Lord Carnarvon, who lived in the nearby Highclere Castle just over there, and his Egyptian collection and the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in the 1920s, and also this wonderful Iron Age hill fort. But I'm not here for any of that. I've come up here to look at that hill over there. I find that one, in my own personal opinion, far more intriguing, not to take anything away from Beacon Hill. That is Ladle Hill Fort, another Iron Age settlement. Here in old Burghclere, you can see I'm clearly crossing a bridge, and this used to cross the Didcot, Newbury and Southampton line. Another one of my epic explores, which you can find on the Pathfinder channel. Up on this last turn of the path before we head up to Ladle Hill, which is up there. We've got this lovely little feature that obviously the farmer has created. All of the flint that he's dug out of his fields, he's piled up there, and it doesn't really mean anything, but I think it looks really good. It's got like a prehistoric feel to it. Now, talking of prehistoric feels, we've got another footpath, this one there, heading south, that is. Well, either side of that footpath we've got two ancient structures. We've got one here in the field there, you can just see a few little lumps and bumps, and then there's another one just there, and obviously the best way to look at those is from an overhead view. A quarter of a mile south of Ladle Hill, and designated collectively as Ancient Monument number 153, at first glance at the modern overhead view, it reveals two circular features, very much like ancient barrows. A look on the 1895 National Library of Scotland map shows just the western earthwork, and of a square nature, immediately resembling an enclosure. Reference in Historic England states that both the western and eastern features are described as rectangular enclosures with a possible Bronze Age date. So, finally, here I am at Ladle Hill. And Ladle Hill is a brilliant example of what's known as a univalent, I think I've got the right pronunciation, hill fort. Now, univalent means simply that it has one set of ramparts around it. If you look at the majority of Iron Age hill forts around Britain, they've got two or even three or more sets of ramparts. This has only got the one. The other thing that is absolutely beautiful, apart from the scenery around here, is the fact that, probably extremely rare, possibly even unique, is that this hill fort was never completed.
Covering approximately 8.5 acres, the Hillfort here at Ladle Hill comprises of earthworks dating from the middle to the end of the Iron Age. That's roughly the 4th century BC to the mid 1st century AD. Possibly as old as 2,600 years old, the site, however, has never been excavated, but geophysical scans have revealed no evidence of habitation within the fort. However, there is plenty of evidence of much Bronze Age activity dating to at least 800 years before the fort's construction.
So how do we know that this site is unfinished? Well, the first thing we notice is look at the amount of beautiful cowslips we've got growing here. Absolutely stunning. It really is an amazingly beautiful and isolated area. So if we look down here, now this is what's thought to be one of two entrances, or two proposed entrances into the Ladle Hill. This is the eastern side. There's another one over there on the west. So if we drop down here into the entrance itself, and we can see there we've got the beginnings of a ditch. It's not very big. It's only 20 feet long by about 10 feet wide, and then you can see we got ground level. Here we got the spoil that was taken out of that ditch placed next to it. If we start moving north, we come to another spoil heap, and then down there where that tree is the ditch. And you can see here where these spoil heaps have been dug out of the ditch. They haven't been levelled off, they've just been left in their piles. You can see there's pile there, pile there, pile there, and we've got pieces of ditch running all the way around the site. You can see over there, if you can see into the sun, you've got the spoil heaps there, and you've got the unfinished ditches.
This overhead drone view taken in the winter shows the eastern ditches' unfinished nature, with the separate and unconnected ditches and ramparts clearly visible. Replacing that image with Google Earth's overhead view allows us to see the other earthworks visible at Ladle Hill, the clearest being this large circle directly north of the Hillfort's ramparts. This has been identified as a Bronze Age disc barrow. Disc barrows usually date to the late Bronze Age, which means this example could be 3,500 years old. Better viewed in the winter, it has a diameter of 52 metres and is complete with ditch and rampart. In a good state of preservation, the barrow has never been explored, and it's expected that within are the remains either inhumed or cremated of a high status person. In other excavated barrows within the UK, grave goods such as precious metals and weapons have been found, and it's possible they could exist here at Ladle Hill. In addition to the disc barrow, a saucer barrow can also be found, although only really visible in winter due to reduced vegetation. Within the Hillfort's ramparts, it can be found here. Now, I'm sure you're asking the question, what's the difference between a saucer and a disc barrow? Well, both are circular and with ditch and rampart. The difference is more about the mound. Disc barrow mounds have a short diameter, emanating probably half the distance between the centre and the ditch, whilst a saucer barrow, although more shallow, will cover the whole internal area. Not really visible in this view. You can, however, see it in this drone shot I took in the winter. The dark mark on top is suspected to be a depression caused by antiquarian activity in the 19th century. Returning to the reference view, and a third circular feature can be seen here at the southeast corner of the Hillfort. Not a barrow this time, but another man-made feature. This is a dew pond.
So here is our dew pond. I found a way in. I've still got a bit of water. It hasn't rained for quite some time. And in fact, I can see newts in there. I don't know if you can see them. Anyway, it's a man-made feature. And if you look on an aerial view, it's perfectly circular, so it looks contemporary with the Bronze Age barrow mounds that were in this area. Unfortunately, it's not. It's very different date to our Hillfort over there. So they're man-made, they're dug out, they're lined with clay and then let to fill up with water, and they're used to water cattle and livestock. I don't know if you can see the some newts down there, look. This is the western side of Ladle Hill, which offers the most complete earthworks and ramparts of the whole site. You can see that the ditch is almost complete in its entirety on the northwest, which is up there, and then it swings round towards the southwest all the way around there. The ditches are still haphazardly piled, so they haven't been evened out, but in addition to the earthworks here, and let's just get into the ditch here without snapping a bone, so let's cross over. There are two more earthworks that are visible. So originally another earthwork would have joined up with our ditch approximately here where I'm standing, and it is still visible, but you have to look for it. So while our ditch goes off round to the southwest, we have another linear earthwork. I don't know if you can see it, so it follows my hand that way. If we drop down a little bit, let's move the camera, maybe you can see it better. So unfortunately we're looking into the sun, but it goes to the right of this tree and the left of that one, and it follows all the way there. I can see it, but I don't know if you can see it on the camera. And then it follows the ridge, so it comes out here all the way down there for quite a distance. I think something like 2,000 meters. So if you can see the main road down there, the A34, it ends way over there, overlooking the A44 and another area called Seven Barrows, and that is where you will find another, or the remains of another 7 Bronze Age burial mounds.
Not easy to see from the ground, Let's turn to the overhead view and confirm those linear features positions. Now, the western one can be found here, and it heads south, as I said earlier. The eastern one can be found here. But what is their date and purpose? Well, they're thought to be Bronze Age, predating the Hillfort and contemporary with the Barrows. As to their purpose, it's also thought that they were simply land boundaries of the tribes which occupied here at the time.
So why was Ladle Hill never completed? Was it attacked by a neighbouring tribe? The earthworks here are dated between the middle and the end of the Iron Age. Now, just before the end of the 1st century BC, the Atrebates tribe arrived in this area from Gaul, that's northern France, after being overrun by the Romans. Their capital, Caliwa Atrebatum, another series I've made, is only just over 10 miles from here. But if that's the case, why didn't they simply take over the fort for themselves? And if this fort was attacked, was it just abandoned by the builders to retreat into Beacon Hill over there? And of course, in 43 AD, the Romans arrived in Britain, which brought about the end of the Iron Age in England and Wales. Were they responsible for the cessation of work here? After all, it's not that there isn't any evidence of Roman activity at Ladle Hill.
Have a look at this stunning LiDAR image courtesy of Wikipedia. It shows all of Ladle Hill's features and ramparts. Let's zoom in to this earthwork on the hill's western side. Now, there is reported to be a Roman feature on the western slopes of Ladle Hill. Could this semicircular earthwork be it?
After looking at the LiDAR image showing us the horseshoe shape, which is the main contender for the Roman feature here at Ladle Hill, we're on the footpath that takes us up to the summit. We've got the west slope coming down that way. And on my right, we have the southern bank of that supposed Roman feature. So let's clamber to the top. And it's quite substantial, actually. And in historic England, it does state a substantial bank on the western slopes of Ladle Hill. And that's exactly what we've got. It is a bank, and you can, it's very vegetated in middle of May at the moment, but it does go round in a horseshoe shape. So I'm in the bowl, so to speak, of the horseshoe feature. The southern bank is there rising, and it goes all around us. And I have checked, trust me, I've been in there and got stung. And then you can see the northern bank just over there. Now, Historic England also states possible uses for this, and one is for a fish pond, which is highly plausible. In fact, it's the perfect size for a fish pond. The other is for a circus. Now, straight away, we've got to get the idea of a circus out of our mind. A modern circus, that is. Roman circuses were sports arenas, largely for chariot racing, but other sports as well. This area is definitely not the sizable enough for chariot racing. Maybe a bit of wrestling or fighting, like a mini amphitheatre. But it states circus and not amphitheatre, so I think the jury may well be out on the circus theme for here. However, just over there, so this is the northern bank of our horseshoe. We've gone past it now, and I'll just clamber up this bank here and show you a possible theory of mine that may correlate to the circus theme. Now, as you can see, the west slope continues going downhill, and then it plateaus for quite some distance. So there's our horseshoe feature there, and then we've got this plateauing here, and then it ends with another bank and drops a little bit further to ground level. So this plateau starts roughly there. It ends a good distance into the trees there. It's nice and flat, and it's possible that we could have an area for sports, for surf, for chariot, or even racing. It's just a wild theory, and that's assuming, of course, that this is the alleged Roman feature. And if it is the Roman feature, then you have to ask, why would the Romans build anything out here? There's no Roman habitation around here for miles, but we could have a villa really nearby just waiting to be discovered. And just because we haven't found it, it doesn't mean to say that they weren't here.